Harry Styles, one of the biggest names in music history, an icon in all aspects. So how did he get here?
Connie, mission accepted.
Harry Edward Styles was born on February 1st, 1994 in Redditch, Worcestershire, England, as the son of a landlady named Annie Twist and a finance worker Desmond or Des Styles. As a kid, Harry moved with his parents and older sister Gemma to the village of Holmes Chapel in Cheshire. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And when he was only 7, his parents divorced. Although a bit unique, in his own words, Harry had a great childhood and was always supported by his parents. Growing up, Harry developed a passion for music, singing Elvis covers on a karaoke machine that his grandfather gave him, which transferred over to his time at Holmes Chapel Comprehensive School, where he was the lead singer for the band White Eskimo, which cool enough won the Battle of the Bands competition. And as many of you probably know, around the same time he worked part-time at a local bakery where he discovered a passion for breads.
Connie, mission accepted.
After a suggestion from his mother, on April 11th, 2010, Harry auditioned for that season of The X Factor. At his audition, he sang Hazel's Sister, but after Simon Cowell suggested that he try a new song, eventually gave his rendition of Isn't She Lovely.
Isn't she lovely?
Harry was able to advance to the boot camp, but didn't make it any farther until he was put into a boy band with 4 other strapping lads that eventually became One Direction. Interestingly enough, Mr. Styles suggested the name One Direction to his bandmates, and it simply stuck throughout the competition, with the band not just gaining national, but international attention. And so it wasn't much of a surprise that after the show ended, the band signed a contract with Simon Cowell's label, Psycho Records, and it didn't take all that long after for them to pop off. In a matter of months, Harry and the lads went from working class kids to international superstars, and over the next 4 years became the biggest thing since sliced bread, with Harry in front and center.
Connie, mission accepted.
Following half a decade of world domination, One Direction went on a quote-unquote indefinite hiatus, as each member went off into their own corner of the globe. In the first half of 2016, Harry signed a recording record with Columbia Records, and around the same time launched his own record label, Erskine Records. I might have butchered that. Throughout that year, Mr. Styles recorded his debut album in both Los Angeles and Port Antonio, Jamaica, where Harry and his collaborators took a 2-month retreat. And in March 2017, he announced his first solo single, A Sign of the Times, which was set to be released that April. And considering how big a name Harry had become by this point, the hype for the debut was one of a kind, so it wasn't all that big a surprise that it peaked at number 1 on the UK charts and was top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song was quite a bit different than his 1D tunes, drawing inspiration from 70s glam rock artists like Bowie. And even though it was only his debut, Rolling Stone raved about the single, ranking it as the best song of 2017. So needless to say, it was not too shabby of a start, and so there was all sorts of anticipation for the upcoming self-titled album that was released that May. His debut peaked at number 1 in numerous countries across the globe, including both the UK and the US, to generally favorable reviews by critics for his 70s soft rock influence and ability to blend genres.
Connie, mission accepted.
Following the release, Harry embarked on a world tour over the course of the rest of 2017 and into 2018, while at the same time making his feature film debut in Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. You'd think the notoriety would have played into the fact that Mr. Styles got the part, but in Mr. Nolan's words, he was unaware of his fame, saying that he was cast simply because he fit the part wonderfully and truly earned a seat at the table. Although he was already a megastar, Harry did very well in the role, as many got lost in his performance.
Little cute jumping frog.
Fast forward to 2018, and Mr. Styles served as an executive producer on the short-lived CBS sitcom Happy Together, inspired by Harry's experiences living with former 1D music video and eventual television producer Ben Winston and his wife. While around that same time, Mr. Styles began modeling for Gucci, which makes quite a bit of sense, because I mean, look at this dude.
Daddy, chill.
After spending the next year or so working on his next album, Harry released the debut single Lights Up in October of 2019, which debuted at number 3 in the UK, and as many would say, reintroduced Mr. Styles back into the pop mainstream.
Connie, mission accepted.
It wasn't long until Harry followed up that debut, as he dropped Adore You early that September, which peaked at number 7 in the UK and 6 in the US, and was immediately followed up with his second studio album titled Fine Line that released only a week later. The album peaked at number 2 on the UK charts, while absolutely dominating the Billboard Hot 100, as it was the biggest sales debut from an English male artist since the Nielsen SoundScan began tracking electronic sales data back in '91. Over the course of the next few months, numerous singles were released, from Falling, Watermelon Sugar, Golden, and Treat People with Kindness. And although they all did well, of the bunch, Watermelon Sugar garnered the most commercial success, as it was Harry's first number 1 single in the US and 4th UK top 10 single as it peaked at number 4. Following the release of the album, as you could guess, a tour was in the works, until the pandemic put it on hold, until in September the following year when it kicked off in Las Vegas. You may have forgotten, but around the same time, Harry made his debut in the MCU as Star Fox in the underrated film Eternals, which released that November.
What a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Following the success of Fine Line, expectations were astronomically high on his upcoming album, but somehow it got blown to smithereens when on April 1st, 2022, Harry released the giga hit As It Was. What can I say about As It Was that you haven't heard a billion times over? It was one of the longest running number ones in US chart history, is on its way to becoming the most streamed song on all of Spotify, and alongside a good old Coachella headline, launched Harry into a whole new galaxy.
Connie, mission accepted.
Only a month or so after releasing the song, Mr. Styles dropped his third album, titled Harry House, which as you could certainly guess, topped the charts without fail. During the release week of the album, Harry was number 1 on both the album and singles charts in the UK and the US, along with 3 of his other tracks charting top 10 all the while, as the first British solo artist to do so. Fast forward a few months, and Harry dropped a music video for his second single, Late Night Talking, and around the same time, appeared in the film Don't Worry Darling, alongside performing 15 sold-out shows at Madison Square Garden as a part of his Love on Tour. If this isn't evidence enough, Harry's a man of many talents, and the fact that he didn't get the role of Elvis proves it that much more, considering that in the director's words, he's already an icon. So let's just say that Harry is doing perfectly fine for himself.
Connie, mission accepted.
While on tour, Harry released a few more singles, with music from a sushi restaurant, Satellite, and recently Daylight, on the heels of one of the best performing albums of the past few years, and one that received quite a bit of hardware.
Harry Styles!
It was only a matter of time before Harry got some real recognition for his impressive work, especially for someone who has quickly become an icon like Mr. Styles. People love to critique his acting, or unique outfits, or really whatever you have it, but it's really because they don't understand it, and it honestly reminds me of what likely happened to Elton John back in his heyday. Harry is the epitome of an icon because he is unlike anyone else out there, as he simply does what he wants to do and doesn't care what anyone else thinks, which is something I find extremely commendable. And honestly, why should anyone care what anyone else is doing? Especially someone as awesome as Mr. Styles, someone who raised millions of dollars for numerous charities throughout one of the biggest tours of all time.
Connie, mission accepted.
Harry Styles is already an icon, and yet his journey has only just begun, because even if you count his days in One Direction, he still has only made music for just over a decade, and yet somehow in that time has become one of the biggest stars in the entire world. Whether it's his dashing good looks, unique style, incredible talent, or everything in between, Mr. Styles is going to be remembered for generations, and as you and I both know, he deserves it all.
Connie, mission accepted.
There are not many out there as special as Harry, so I hope he breaks every single record out there, because there's no one out there quite like Mr. Harry Edward Styles. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, let me know your favorite song of his, and subscribe and like for more stuff like this. But anyways, have the best day of your entire life, and peace out.